And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather outlook on this Monday, October 14th, 2024. And this outlook will be for Tuesday into Wednesday as we head toward midweek. We've had an area of low pressure out over the North Pacific lower Gulf interface. This feature will just gradually weaken as it works its way eastward through midweek. Meanwhile, the next potent weather system is an area of low pressure and cold front coming in off of the Chukchi Sea from off of the Russian coast. This system will be pushing southeastward, first impacting the northwestern coast along the Chukchi Sea and then spreading areas of snow and snow showers inland, along with a push of colder air that'll work its way all the way southward into along and south of the Alaska Range into the southeast interior of the mainland. Maybe even induce a weak area of low pressure Wednesday night into Thursday over the northern and northeastern Gulf Coast. But that trend will be for colder temperatures and some areas of snow or snow showers overspreading first the northern and then across central and southeastern portions of the mainland. So by the time we get into Tuesday afternoon, that front will be pushing inland. There are likely be some sort of winter weather advisory or winter storm warning for this system because some of the snows here and through the western portion of the Brooks Range could be on the heavier side. Several inches of snow along with some strong gusty winds upwards of 30, 40 miles an hour. And we expect these low ceilings, visibilities here impacting the northwest areas of the state by Tuesday afternoon, especially around Point Lay down to Point Hope and then extending inland into the western part of the Brooks Range. Meanwhile, conditions generally VFR along the Yukon River Valley and areas especially south of the Alaska Range, improving conditions over the northern Panhandle VFR expected. Weak area of low pressure scooting along and south of the Aleutian should not have too much in the way of impacts. Some gusty winds, but nothing like the storm that impacted this area of the Bering and then moved into the North Pacific for this weekend. We expect widespread IFR conditions along the Brooks Range, Arctic coast, North Slope, and pushing toward the Alcan border Wednesday morning. Again, colder air with areas of snow and snow showers heading southeastward. MVFR conditions developing across the Alaska Range. Still some lingering MVFR conditions across the southern Panhandle into Wednesday. As I mentioned, the area of low pressure weakens considerably and just kind of dissipates heading east toward the British Columbia coastline by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon. But as you note, Wednesday afternoon, IFR conditions are expected to be widespread along the Arctic coast between Utqiagvik and Kaktovik, the North Slope, and along the spine of the Brooks Range. And across the interior through this region and over the Alaska Range, there will be some areas of snow or snow showers working their way southeastward as the cold air pushes southeastward. By the end of the week, just kind of as a prelude, we are going to see some more energy, low pressure waves coming up out of the North Pacific into the Gulf, and there certainly is a potential for some moderate to heavier precipitation returning to areas of the northeastern Gulf and Panhandle later this week and for the upcoming weekend. In the meantime, though, Atituvik and Adigan passes there in the central Brooks Range start out VFR Tuesday morning, but becoming MVFR, and they'll quickly become IFR by Tuesday evening and Tuesday night. Same thing, Adigan Pass VFR becoming MVFR during the daylight hours, but then quickly becoming IFR by the time we get into Tuesday night. Lake Clark and Merrill there along the west arm of the Alaska Range, VFR, Rainy Pass, VFR up around Windy Pass, also VFR conditions on Tuesday. Isabel Pass will see MVFR conditions through the pass and especially to the north. South, though, VFR conditions are anticipated. And for Mentasta Pass, we expect IFR conditions north of the north entrance, generally MVFR conditions through the pass, and then VFR conditions once you pop out on the south entrance and heading down across the Copper River Basin. Also, Tanita Pass, seeing VFR conditions prevail on Tuesday. Further south, Portage Pass may see some MVFR conditions, especially mid-pass out toward Prince William Sound in the morning, becoming VFR. And then in the northern Panhandle, conditions there improving as well. MVFR in the morning, Chilkoot and White becoming VFR. And looking at the overall freezing levels at the surface, we find the surface freezing line does bump up just a little northward ahead of the cold front. It'll be slamming into the northwestern coast along the Chukchi Sea coastline and into the western Brooks here as we go through Tuesday afternoon and evening. And then generally speaking, many temperatures Tuesday morning will be below freezing across the interior. And we find no real warm air aloft to speak of. It's all been pushed way out toward central southern Canada, and then well south of the Aleutians we have some freezing levels above 6,000 feet, but again, well south of the area. And looking at the potential for icing, there could be some isolated icing in a few areas, far southern panhandle above 6,000 feet. Another area, though, of the main importance will be this system. Potent little low and cold front coming inland along the northwest Arctic coast, and that'll overspread snow and blowing snow. As I mentioned, winds could gust as high as 40 miles an hour in some areas. So there'll also be blowing snow and colder temperatures pushing southeastward. And this area of snow and snow showers will spread southeastward with the colder air as we go through Tuesday night and Wednesday. Back to the west in the Aleutians, kind of on the back edge here of an area of low pressure, scooting eastward. We could find some moderate icing above 6,000 feet there between the central and eastern Aleutians on Tuesday. Now, looking at upper level winds, 30,000 feet, we still have troughiness here over the Gulf. And here comes a little stronger wind field there at 30,000 feet, 100 knot jet core that's punching into the west-northwest portion of the state near and north of the Bering Strait. As we bring it down to 9,000 feet or 700 millibars, we find lighter winds over the Gulf, the remnants of that low pushing up toward, at least the lead of it, pushing up toward the British Columbia coast, but a broader belt of stronger northwesterly winds across the Chukchi Sea, west side of the state, back toward eastern Russia. 35 to 45 knot maximums there, especially around the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait, out over the Chukchi Sea. And then at 3,000 feet, cold front will be pushing inland during the afternoon, and we find winds southwesterly ahead of it, shifting northwesterly, 35 to 45 knots, so there's a stronger wind field here over the Chukchi Sea. We find also some locally stronger winds, British Columbia coast, upwards 50, 60 knots. And then along areas of the central Aleutians, some 40 knot east-southeast winds. And as we bring that down to the surface, obviously the potential for moderate turbulence will occur here along the Chukchi Sea coastline, especially from, say, Wainwright down to Point Hope to Kivalina, and inland across the western Brooks Range, western part of the North Slope, surface to 6,000 feet there, some moderate turbulence, and then a couple pockets of isolated moderate turbulence, perhaps the south end of the Panhandle toward Dixon Entrance, and then also back out here along the central and western Aleutians, surface to 3,000 feet on Tuesday.